Your favorite topic of stewardship. Stewardship. And so I know when you hear the word stewardship, where does your mind immediately go? Money, 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 right? That money. We think about giving and tithing, the use of our finances, and money is under the topic of stewardship in the scriptures, right? Like we understand that, okay? But it's not limited to just that, okay? It's not limited to just money and finances, okay? God's concept of stewardship goes beyond just how we use money. Stewardship also includes what we already have, our possessions. Stewardship includes how we use our time. Stewardship includes how we use our abilities, how we use the opportunities the Lord has given us, how we use our influence. And stewardship includes the gospel itself, that God has entrusted to us, Paul says, the message of reconciliation. Did you know that? So we have a stewardship in the gospel. Okay? So, on the front end, let's get this straight. Okay? Stewardship is not simply how much of my money should I give God, which is where our minds go. The better question is this: how should I use everything God has given me for His glory? That's stewardship. How should I use everything God has given to me for His glory? And what we're going to see as we read the article is that's where our Baptist Faith and Message puts the emphasis on. Okay, so let's look at it together. You can pull out your phone and scan that QR code. If you want to pull it up on your phone, you can read it from there. Just click on Article 13. Follow along. Maybe you still have your physical copy from weeks, months ago. Some of you, here we go. Some of you are good stewards. You have managed well what has been given to you. Well done, good and faithful servants. Okay? But for the rest of you whose sheets have been misplaced, okay, feel free to scan the QR code, or you can follow along as I read. Here it is, Article 13 on stewardship. And I love this first sentence. God is the source of all blessings, right? Temporal and spiritual. All that we have and are, we owe to Him. Christians have a spiritual debtorship to the whole world, a holy trusteeship in the gospel, and a binding stewardship in their possessions. They are therefore under obligation to serve Him with their time, talents, and material possessions, and should recognize all these as entrusted to them to use for the glory of God and for helping others. According to the Scriptures, Christians should contribute of their means cheerfully, regularly, systematically, proportionately, and liberally for the advancement of the Redeemer's cause on earth. And that is our statement on stewardship. It's pretty all-encompassing, isn't it? It's not limited to one thing. It's really expanded to all of our lives. That really is it. Stewardship is about how we're using all of our lives. Okay, what makes up our lives. How we are, and the key word that we're going to kind of key in on is how we are managing it. That's what a steward does. A steward is a manager. Okay? A steward is a manager of what belongs to someone else. Okay? That's the main idea behind stewardship. So let's start there. What's a good definition of stewardship? And this is what I came up with. Stewardship is the responsibility to manage the resources God has placed in your care. Okay? Responsibility to manage the resources God has placed in your care. So stewardship is about being faithful with everything God has entrusted to us. That's a word the Bible uses a lot to describe our stewardship. God has entrusted something to us, and then we are to manage that faithfully, okay? As our Baptist Faith and Message says, for His glory and the good of others, okay? Everything we have belongs to God, and we are to use it faithfully for the advancement of His kingdom, okay? So first, let's start where our statement starts, and let's notice this. The foundation of stewardship, and here's the foundation everything is built on, okay? Very simple sentence. It's 3 words. God owns what? Everything. God owns everything, okay? So the Baptist Faith and Message begins with this sentence. God is the source of all blessings, temporal and spiritual. All that we have and are, we owe to Him. Okay? Stewardship. The foundation that stewardship is built on is the acknowledgement God owns everything. Everything belongs to God. God is the owner. We are the stewards. Temporary, not lasting, right? So think of really anything in this world that's physical, okay, is temporary, okay? So a steward, again, is someone who manages what belongs to someone else. Foundationally, if we are going to be faithful stewards, here it is. It's not mine. Okay? Can you get that in your mind? Okay? It's not mine. Although we speak that way. My house, my car, my clothes, my. Foundationally, though, all things belong to God. And we are managers of His property that He has given us access to. That's the way to think about it. God owns it. I steward it. He gives me access to it. Okay? So I thought of this illustration. Imagine for a moment someone owns a large farm and they hire you. You are put in charge of managing it. That means you get access to all their land. You can go anywhere you want on it, right? You have access to all the land. You also have access to all the equipment. You need the four-wheeler, the side-by-side, the tractor, whatever. You get on it, you go do what needs to be done. You have access to all the buildings. You get the keys, right? You get to unlock the doors, go in. Anything you need is available to you, right? Access to finances. If you need to buy something and your management of it, you have access to that. But here's the key, right? None of it's actually yours. You've been delegated some authority over it, but in the end, you are managing what belongs to someone else. And that's the way the Bible speaks about stewardship. We are the managers who have access to what belongs to the Lord. Because again, He is the source of all things. The temporary things and the spiritual things. And we owe who we are and what we have to Him. And stewardship is a foundational concept from the very beginning. When God creates the world, and He creates a man and a woman, and He puts them in His world that He made, and what assignment does He give them? Steward it. Manage it. Take dominion. You have authority over these things. Right? So Genesis 1, 27 through 30. So God created man in His own image. In the image of God, He created him. Male and female, He created them. God blessed them. And God said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. Have authority over it. Have dominion. That's rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. And God said, behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the heavens, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I've given every green plant for food, and it was so. Adam and Eve didn't own any of it, did they? No, they didn't make it. They didn't create it. The Creator has ownership. And as Creator, He owns all that is and all that ever will be, and we are to be stewards of it, managers in a way that glorifies Him. Or some other scriptures that talk about this. Psalm 24:1. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. What does that mean? The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. Everything in it. That's right. Everything in it. The fullness of it. The world and those who dwell therein. Or 1 Chronicles 29, and we'll look at verse 11 and 14 in 1 Chronicles 29. Yours, O Lord, is the greatness and the power and the glory and the victory and the majesty. For all that is in the heavens and in the earth is whose? Yours. Yours is the kingdom, O Lord, and you are exalted as head above all. So what David's doing in 1 Chronicles 20:19 is he is praising the Lord. All right, if you know your Bible, you know what's happening here. In 1 Chronicles 29, the people have just gave this generous offering to build the temple. All right, all the people have come together. They've given generously for it. And now David is praising the Lord, okay? And then he says this in 1 Chronicles 29:14. But who am I and what is my people that we should be able thus to offer willingly? They're talking about the gift. For all things come from you, and of your own have we given you. Now, what does that last phrase mean? Of your own have we given you. There you go. What they have to give is the Lord's to start with. Do you see that? Of your own we've given. We are giving to you what is already yours. That's what David says. Again, stewards, managers, it all belongs to the Lord. And so David understood that when they took up this generous offering and they've set it aside to build a temple for the Lord, that their giving to the Lord for this purpose is they're giving back to God what He gave them in the first place. Okay? The Bible even says that our ability to work, our ability to earn money, our ability to, yes, build wealth, where does that come from? The Lord. Deuteronomy 8:18. You shall remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you power to get wealth, that He may confirm His covenant that He swore to your fathers as it is to this day. So, we work. We earn a living. We have to have a paycheck. Okay? We learn skills. We get an education. We provide. We do all the things. But it is God who empowers us to do those things. He gives us the ability to work and to earn that we might steward well what He gives. And in His wisdom and providence, He has placed in our hands, given us access to, at our disposal, certain blessings and gifts that we use for His glory. And we are responsible for using the blessings He gives for that purpose, His glory and the good of others. So, foundational to stewardship, God owns it all. Okay? It's all His. Everything belongs to Him. He is the owners who gives us access as managers to steward well what He's given. questions? None of that's new, maybe? No questions for real? I thought I was going to have to field some questions on this one. Okay, oh me's. We'll take those too. Yeah, I agree. 1,000 hills. There you go. All right. So that's the foundation of stewardship. Let's talk next about the responsibility of stewardship. And here's the responsibility. God entrusts us with everything. Okay? God entrusts us with everything. So here's the next thing the Baptist Faith and Message says. Christians have a spiritual debtorship to the whole world, a holy trusteeship in the gospel, and a binding stewardship in their possessions. So there's 3 key words in there I want you to see, okay? Debtorship. What do you think that means? That is the implication of it, absolutely, right? But who is it that is a debtor? What are you in that sense if you are a debtor? You owe, right? You have an obligation is the idea, okay? Debtorship. Trusteeship. Has anybody ever had to serve as a trustee on some board or appoint trustees or something? What is a trustee? What is a trusteeship? That's it. You take care of other people's stuff. You are a trustee. And somebody's trying to airplay something for us on this back computer. Oh, it's just the back computer, though. It's not this, so we're good. Okay. I would give you the code, but I don't know what you're going to put up there, so I'm not going to give you the code to put up airplay back there. Or I guess it could be somebody in the back. They may be trying to show something on the TVs in the kids' classroom. Yeah, that's probably what that is. Okay. That's fine, though. Okay. Trusteeship, right? Someone who has responsibility over what belongs to somebody else. That's a trust. Okay. All right. What about, we've talked about that word stewardship. But the main thing is, all 3 of these words communicate a responsibility, right? A debtor has an obligation. A trustee has an obligation to the institution, okay? And the same thing as a steward, a stewardship, a responsibility. And so the idea is that God has gifted us something valuable to faithfully manage, okay? And so we have a responsibility as debtors to the world. That's where Miss Janice was just getting at a while ago. We have a debtorship. And the way the Bible talks about it is that we are debtors to the world. We have an obligation to the world, okay? In the sense that we are to steward what we have been given so that other people might come to know Jesus. This is what Paul says. It's Romans 1:14. I am under obligation. That word means I'm under a debtorship. Okay, I'm under obligation both to Greeks and to barbarians, both to the wise and to the foolish. So the gospel that saved Paul and that Paul came to know made him a debtor. It put him under obligation to the world to steward that good news. Okay? Those who have received the saving gospel of Jesus are commanded to yield and even sacrifice material possessions for the cause of the gospel so that others might come to know Jesus. That's what that means. Okay? And so the Baptist Faith and Message says we have a holy trusteeship in the gospel. A trusteeship is the job, duty, or legal position of a trustee. A person or a group has been delegated to take care of money, property, or the legal rights of someone else. And so it means as a Christian, part of our stewardship is serving as a trustee of the gospel. Okay, you are a trustee, an obligation to steward this well. This gospel, okay, the good news of the life and death and resurrection of Jesus to save sinners, this has placed in our care that we might steward it, that other people come to know this gospel. Again, Paul says, it's 1 Corinthians 4, 1 and 2, this is how one should regard us, as servants of Christ and stewards of the mysteries of God. Moreover, it is required of stewards that they be found faithful. So this is how we are regarded as believers. Servants of Jesus, stewards of the mysteries of God. And that we might be found faithful as stewards. Okay? So, as a steward, that means we don't own the gospel, right? We are managers. Which means we didn't create the message of the gospel, right? We did not invent ourselves how it is God saves sinners. We also do not have the authority to change that message or the way in which God saves sinners. Our responsibility as stewards is to faithfully share it and pass it on. Right? Does that make sense? We are stewards of the gospel. Okay? Which means, as stewards, we don't receive it just to hold on to it, do we? No, we are to see to it as faithful stewards that this gospel multiplies out from us. And this is Jesus' point in the parable of the talents. How many of you know the parable of the talents in Matthew 25? Okay? Here's what we read. Matthew 25, verse 14. Jesus tells this parable, and he says, "It will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants, and what's the word? Entrusted." What did he just make them? Stewards. Stewards of his property. They've entrusted with his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. So this is a parable about stewardship. Someone owns something. There's a master, and then he entrusts it into the care of servants. He makes them stewards. Now, how many of you know what a talent is? I know somebody does because I told them what it is earlier. All right, here's the hint. It has nothing to do with your skill or ability, which is how most of us have probably heard this, right? It is. It is about money. It absolutely is. A talent was a way in Roman culture to weigh a large amount of money. Anybody want to guess how much a single talent weighed? And this is in gold and silver coins. 75 pounds is how much a talent weighs in coins. It's a lot of dough. Okay? So, 1 talent was the equivalent of about 6,000 denarii. A denarii was the daily wage of a laborer. So anybody good at math? How many years of labor, how many years of earning is 1 talent? It's 16.4. So this is like whatever you make in 1 year, 1 talent would be like your wages for 16.4 years. That's how much 1 talent is. Okay? So if you have a salary, times it by 16.4, that's 1 talent. Okay? And so this master entrusts one servant with 5 talents. It's a large sum of money. Okay? What is that, 80 years? If I do the math right? If you count in the 0.4, it's probably closer to 85 or 90. Okay? 85 or 90 years worth of wages. Okay, 5 talents. Then he gives to another one 2 talents. and then to another one 1 talent. And if you know how the parable goes, the servants entrusted with 5 and 2 talents, what do they go out and do? That's right. They invest it and it doubles. So the one with 5 talent, he comes back to his master with how many talents? 10. The one with 2 talents, he comes back with how many? 4. But what about the one who was given 1 talent? What happened to that servant? What did he do with his talent? He buried it in the ground. He just held on to it. He buried it in the ground. And then the parable goes on. The master returns, and he calls each servant to give an account for how they have stewarded the talent the master gave, or talents the master gave. And the ones who were given 5 and 2 talents, those servants heard these words. In Matthew 25, 21, and 23, it says the same thing. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. But the 1 talent servant, he's rebuked. He's called unfaithful, and it says he's cast into outer darkness. All right? So here, in the parable of the talents, we learn some good principles about our responsibility as stewards. Okay? And the first is this. Not everyone has the same stewardship, right? God gives to each one according to their what? Ability. He gives one servant 5 talents, one 2 talents, and the other 1 talent. Okay? Some are given more, some are given less. The second principle is that it's not about how much you have or don't have, it's about what you do with what you have. Right? So the one that's given 5 talents, he comes and he brings back 10. And then the one that has 2 talents, he comes and brings back 4. But notice, the master's word to both of them was what? The same. Well done, good and faithful servant. Okay? So the one that brought back 10 talents is not congratulated more or given more. They both hear the same commendation. Well done, good and faithful servant. Okay? So it's not about how much you have or how little you have. It's about what you do with what you have. Stewardship is not primarily about how much you have. It's about what you're doing with what God has given. Okay? That's the responsibility. Some have more, some have less. Some people have more financial resources than others. Some have greater influence than others. Some have different abilities than others have abilities. Some have different opportunities than others. Okay? But everyone has been entrusted to steward what they have, though it may be different than everyone else. Okay, I'll stop there for a moment. Questions. I have some more on this, but that's a good little stopping place before we get to the next, if you have questions about that. Had all of us heard that a talent was like ability and skill and that kind of thing? Like what you can do? Okay. Mm-hmm. That's how we read that, right? That's how we read that. Okay. Now, so no questions then? Okay. So now our Baptist Faith and Message identifies some particular areas that we are to faithfully steward and manage well. Okay, so we started and said it's not all about money and finances. Okay? And so here's some of the things the Baptist Faith and Message identifies, and here's the first. We are stewards of our time. Okay, our time. So the Baptist Faith and Message says they are therefore under obligation to serve Him with their time. Time. We are under obligation to serve Christ with our time, to manage our time well. So here's what Ephesians 5 says. Ephesians 5:15. Look carefully then how you walk. That is how you live. Not as unwise, but as wise. And what does it look like to walk and live wisely? Making the best use of the what? Time. Because the days are evil. So we are to live in such a way that would maximize kingdom impact by committing our time to the lordship of Jesus. We are to make the best use of the time we're given. Here's how you know that we are only stewards of our time. None of us can add more time. Right? What is the only thing that we can do with our time? Use it wisely. Use it wisely. And time may be one of the most overlooked gifts that God gives, that we have access to as stewards. Because we can always make more money. Lose it all tomorrow, we have opportunities we can go out and work and earn. Right? That's kind of one of the principles our country's founded on. Okay? We could lose all of our possessions, and guess what? They can be replaced. Okay? How many of you, especially some of you more seasoned, okay, raising a teenager or something, and they total out a car or a truck, and what's some of those words of comfort you give? I'm glad you're okay. That can be what? Replaced. Okay? Time can't be replaced, right? Like, the time an hour ago was 6:22. That's gone. Right? Like, there's no getting that back. It is gone. And every day, God deposits time into our lives, and then we steward it. We manage it. Okay? So we make the best use of the time we're given. Questions about that? Or comments? Okay. The next thing the Baptist Faith and Message identifies is that we are stewards of our talents. And by talents, I don't mean the way Jesus uses it in the parable of the talents. I mean your skill and ability. That's what we mean by talents. I mean the gifts you have, the abilities you have, the skills you have, the strengths God has given to each of you. Okay? Peter says in 1 Peter 4:10, as each has received a gift, and what he means by that is a spiritual gift. Okay? A spiritual gift. The Bible's very clear. 1 Corinthians 11, and then Romans 13. Is it Romans 13? The gifts of the Spirit? Anybody want to help me? No? All right. On an island. Okay. It's somewhere at the end of Romans. 1 Corinthians 11 and in Romans. That all of us, when we come to know the Lord Jesus, we are filled with the Holy Spirit, and then the Holy Spirit gifts each of us with a gift, a portion of the Spirit by which we serve. Okay? Does anybody know what the gifts of the Spirit are? Some of those? Romans 12, thank you. Romans 12. Somebody, start naming some. Do you know what some of them are? Some of the gifts of the Spirit? Yeah, one of them's teaching. One of them is the gift of teaching. What else? Serving, hospitality. That was one of the main ones I was looking for. Hospitable, hospitality, that's a gift of the Spirit. Some people just have it, okay, and that's because the Spirit gifted them that way. I don't have it, okay, I have to work at it, okay. Well, some others, what are some others? One, I think somebody said ministry. One is the gift of ministry, and that is the gift of serving. Giving, that's one of the gifts. Some of you are super generous. Like giving, it's just second nature, right? That's probably a gift of the Spirit. Okay? What else? I gave you the scriptures, Romans 12, 1 Corinthians 11. Prophecy, Gift of prophecy. I don't think that's exactly being able to see and tell the future. I think prophecy has to do with telling the truth of God. That's what prophets did in the Old Testament. They foretold. What? Exhortation. You know what it means to exhortate someone? It literally means to build up. That's right. To build up. Okay? Huh? Leadership. Some people are just really good at getting people united and moving forward in a common goal. That's leadership. Okay? Some people just have that about them. Okay, gift of the Spirit. We need some leaders. Badly do we need some leaders. Okay. What else? Huh? Discernment. If you were here last week when we were walking through the statement on education, that was one of the big ones, right? Discernment is something that we can become better at. We can become skilled in discernment. And then some of us, we have the gift of the Spirit for discernment, and we just know, okay? I think the way this gift most naturally manifests itself is sometimes people are really good at identifying if someone's genuine or not, okay? I think that's probably the gift of discernment. We need that in the church badly. The way of saying that is people who can identify wolves who want to come in and harm the flock. Okay? Discernment. All right? So, here's what I'm saying. If you are a believer, if you've been filled with the Spirit has given you at least one of those gifts. Some may have more than one. But at the very least, all of you have one of those gifts. Now look, as each has received a gift from the Spirit, use it to serve one another as what? Good stewards, good managers of God's varied grace. Okay? So that's the way Peter's seeing this. Whatever gift the Holy Spirit has given you to serve other people, you are to steward it. And how do you steward it? What does he say? Use it. Use it. Okay? Use your gift or gifts, whatever it is. Okay? And if you're like, I don't know, read the scriptures. Read these lists of what the gifts are and pray and ask the Lord to reveal. Because here's the deal. You don't have to find it. You have it. Like you have it. You just have to discover what it is. Okay? Yes, teaching. That's one of the gifts. Absolutely. Absolutely. Some people just naturally have the gift to be able to teach the scriptures. Okay? I say naturally. I should say supernaturally because it's a gift of the Spirit. Okay? Mm. Mm. Here's the way I think about it, and it would be great for this to get in your mind and your heart. Here's the question. Where does the Spirit live? Within you. Where does the Spirit go? Where you do. Where do you use your gift? Wherever the Spirit leads. All right? It's a gift from the Spirit. Wherever you are, use it. Okay? Use it. I'm out of time. All right? So are you stewarding your gift or gifts? Those talents or skills, resources, opportunities that God has given you to serve one another as a good steward. Okay? The next thing the Baptist Faith and Message identifies that we steward that we'll pick up with next time is that we are stewards of our treasure. Okay? And the way that it says it is material possessions. Okay? But we'll pick up there next time. Okay, other questions or comments? None? All right, we'll pick up here. We'll pick up here next time. Eric, would you